Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope your day is going beautifully. I just wanted to come here and thank you for being an intelligent, woke audience. And I'm saying that in reference to the videos that I've been doing on affirmative action. I wasn't sure how you were going to respond to it, but I know that I felt very strongly that we need to stop begging these people to let us in these schools. And you have brought so much information to me about the schools. Some of you have been in these Ivy League schools, or some of you have children in those schools. And many of you have gone to HBCUs, or many of you are just woke black Americans who know what time it is and know the climate that we're living in. I agree with those who say we need to promote trades in our communities because they are the ones who really build things. That's the building block of any community. We don't need everybody being doctors, everybody being lawyers, everybody being school teachers. We really don't need that. We need some of that. But we need people to build houses. We need plumbers. We need electricians. We need painters. People who have these skills are never out of work, especially if they're dependable. And that's the next thing. You have to have a serious work ethic if you want to be successful. And that has nothing to do with your race. Black Americans are woke, according to me and according to the Kenyan comedian Najambi McGrath, who said that when she lived in America, she didn't understand Black Americans. But years later, apparently, she understood Black Americans better because she said Black Americans are woke. They know where their oppression is coming from. But apparently, Africans don't know that. And so that's how come they become a part of the anti-Black American brigade like so many others. One good thing about our generation and the new Black Americans is that we know the contributions that we made to this country, and we're not afraid to say so. In the past, Black people would be very reluctant to say, we built the country. They wouldn't say that. And then white people grabbed the narrative. We built the country. We built the country. People who got here in 1920 talking about they built the country. Even this Indian dude that calls himself running for president talking about the Civil War had the nerve to say we fought the war. And that's the biggest joke that's ever been told. You were anywhere near this country. Nobody in your family or anybody in your country was anywhere near this country during the Civil War. But we sat back for a long time and didn't say anything. And so people thought that we didn't know, or that, we were too intimidated to say anything. But our generation, mine and the ones behind me, are not afraid to say we built the country and we want our reparations. White Americans got over on Black Americans for so long that I believe they thought they were entitled to benefit from us, and they still think that, beginning with the slavery days. And they profited from that work. Every dime that those enslaved people made went back to them, the white people. So you can understand when they look at people like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and these athletes and entertainers who are making all of this money, they can't help but think there was a time when all of that money would come to them. And it has to be that in some part of their minds, in the back or in the front or in the middle of their minds, they're thinking that money should come to me. That money should be going to them. That's what they think. That's a part of all of this anger and animosity because they had to go to work for themselves. And when Black people really compete with them, very often, Black people end up doing better than they do. We have to factor that in when we start factoring all of this anti-Black hatred. We have to factor in the fact that these people resent the fact that they don't have control over our pocketbooks. I don't know how that feels. We don't really know what it feels like to have control over another race of people. But they resent having lost that control. And the way they show that is never respecting us and trying really hard not to normalize us as human beings. One of the best things about your responses to many of my videos is that you recognize that our strength is not chasing behind people who have never liked us and who have shown it in every way that they know how. Our strength is in working together with each other. Now, that sounds like a foreign concept now, but when they built Black Wall Street that we all reference, those people were working together, keeping their money in their community. Now, somebody pointed out that, and this is what this person believes. He said if we had been integrated and black people had had access to white people, white women, that we never would have had a Black Wall Street. And that's a point. That person made a point. But now we can compare it to something. We can look at what they did when they had to do for self, as they say, and we can look at what we're doing now that many of us, depending on white people for our livelihood. So what you recognize is our strength is going back to the drawing board and starting over with building within. That doesn't mean that we're going to give up everything about America. They didn't give up everything about America, and I often wonder about that. They had a self-sustaining community, and I often wonder, how did they manage that? To a certain extent, they had to work with the white community. There were many self-sustaining or semi-self-sustaining black communities in the United States. Dr. Claude Anderson talks about in Greensboro, North Carolina, where they had their own bus system. But then when the white people come in with a nicer bus, maybe, because let's face it, it's probably nicer, black people abandon that. But in abandoning that, you abandon what you have and you give up what autonomy you have. So we have something to compare it with now. So if we start building again, we know what'll happen if we don't support each other, because we have to support each other. If we have not learned anything in these last 50 years, it is that nobody is more interested in us than we are in each other. And white people lose interest in black people at the same rate that black people lose interest in black people. So that's just a lesson that I have learned. And if you haven't learned it, just observe. Stop, look, and listen and see how they behave towards black people once black people turn off from them. Just look at the music industry. And another thing I wanted to address, this is not a divestment channel, and I am not involved in the gender war that they've got going on social media between black men and black women. And sometimes somebody will wander onto my channel with that kind of negative energy. If I point out something about black men, like I said, black men need to stop crying over affirmative action. Some people took issue with that, saying that they didn't see any black men crying. That was a metaphor. I didn't mean that they were literally crying. It meant that they were whining. Well, it meant that they were mourning it. Like this was the end of everything for black people, that it has set us back 100 years. That is ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. So when I said that, we have seen examples of black men actually literally crying on television. On CNN, Van Jones, Bakari Sellers, Don Lemon, and the other day looked like Victor Blackwell was trying to tear up on CNN. So I'm talking about, I was speaking metaphorically. But we have seen black men literally crying on television. I will never forget the night Donald Trump was elected president. Van Jones was on CNN. And once he realized Donald Trump was going to be president, this white man to his left was a Republican pundit who was gloating. And Van Jones was like his world had come to an end. What are we going to tell our children? Donald Trump has to assure us that he's going to be the president of everybody. Just carrying on, just like white people haven't always done what white people do. Now, in defense of Bakari Sellers, he did cry on CNN, but it was after the George Floyd tragedy. He was upset about that, and I think many of us were. I think most of us were. But Van Jones is the worst. But they're crying about him. The white folk are sitting up there. They're not crying. The black women are sitting there. They're not crying. But you got a black man sitting up there crying. So I'm not lying on him. I'm just saying, if you put it out there, folk gonna talk about you. But I'm not a black male basher. But just because I pointed that out does not mean I'm bashing them, and I'm not. And I'm not a part of the gender war. Take that energy to Cynthia G because she knows what to do with it. But that's not my channel. So, anyway, I appreciate the intelligence and the wokeness of this audience. And I will continue to bring content that I think that you would respect and that you would appreciate. I do research and I try to bring the facts, but if I make a mistake, let me know. But I just want to appreciate you for being the audience that you are. Some of you have been with me for a long time, and I really appreciate you. And I always want to present the best of who we are. I don't believe we're pitiful, and I don't believe that anything that happens is the end of the world. And I believe that as long as we do what we've always done, which is to stick together and support each other when we are right. And as my aunt used to say about the people in our hometown, she says, the people in this town will help you when you need help, and they will talk about you when you need talking about. So that's what we do. We help each other when we need help, and then when somebody does something out of order, we call it out. I think that's the right way to do it. But thank you so much. Just thank you. Thank you for being the audience that you are. I really appreciate you. I appreciated my audience when I only had 12 people. So I appreciate it as the audience grows. I appreciate you. And thank you for being the audience that you are. Oh, I have a correction to make. I said Tuskegee in my last video was in Dallas County. Tuskegee is in Macon County. This is the second time I've made this mistake in a video. And I always think I'm getting it right, and I don't. So I think somebody corrected me. So I think this time I'll get it right. I believe the reason I'm making this mistake is because my brother went to Tuskegee, which is in Macon County, and now he lives in Selma, which is in Dallas County. So Tuskegee, Macon County, Selma, Dallas County. Okay, y'all. Have a great day. Subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Share the video. And as always, have a good day.